Welcome back. I'd like to Doerries, who will speak a little bit about what it is that we just saw, felt, and heard. And then I'm going to see if the people upstairs would like to come downstairs, because when we break into groups, it's going to be easier for you to participate if you do come downstairs. But we can do that in a second. First, Bryan Doerries.
Thank you so much. So I'll be brief. You have a very long day ahead of you and many exciting sessions. Our hope, typically when we perform any of our projects, we launch directly into conversations. And the conversations last longer than the performance because we don't see discussion or dialogue as ancillary to what we do. It's actually the objective of doing all this music and this drama to create the conditions for a conversation that wouldn't have happened had we not performed the play and you hadn't heard the music. And so that's our hope for today, that we've opened the room in ways that are maybe unexpected, that you find yourself open to new possibilities. I just wanted to speak for a few minutes about the origin of this project and how it relates perhaps to what you're about to do. We premiered this project, as I mentioned before, in September of 2016, last September. And we performed it, as I mentioned before, in Michael Brown's high school and in a local church. And we had a church that was about 2 blocks from where the uprisings took place in Ferguson, where a lot of the footage you've seen of the violence and the unrest took place. And, you know, the reaction of the audience was not dissimilar from yours, but the most exciting part of our initial foray into that community, to which we've actually returned now recently, with the help of very unlikely partners that have come together. They call themselves the Antigone Alliance, and they include organizations like the Police Wives Association, of which one of our choir members is president, the Fraternal Order of Police, and the NAACP. So again, already creating sort of connections and partnerships that didn't exist because of the play. The response was so profound. We had frontline protesters who were in the streets of Ferguson around the death of Michael Brown and after, Black Lives Matter activists speaking the truth of their experience, expressing their rage and their anger and their disappointment at living in a country and in a world where there are so many sort of unacknowledged systems of oppression in which many of us, even those on the left, are complicit without necessarily always being conscious of it. And then also, at the same time, police officers standing up and talking about their experiences. And there was debate, although not in the sense of what you may be about to do, in the sense of agonistic debate. People spoke their truths. There was a debate about whether black-on-black crime existed. And we heard from many different sides. We had young people who responded to the play and talked about their experience relating it to Haman trying to advise Creon and feeling totally denied a voice in a system in which they felt like they didn't have a voice politically. And we had people who'd experienced real violence from the police upon their children. And I think one of the most powerful things about the presentation is that we also heard from the choir, who spoke very eloquently and openly about the challenges of being African American and wearing the uniform and going out into the community and taking off the uniform and then being subject to the same types of systems of oppression and violence that people were complaining about the police perpetuating. And that opened up the room. And I think, you know, what happened was that people saw and continue to see, as we've toured this to Baltimore and New York City, and we'll soon be going to Dallas and Brownsville, Brooklyn, and many other communities, people began to see that we're in fact, like in the Greek tragedy, we're all playing roles. And I wanted to leave you just a couple thoughts, which is that Greek tragedy, at least done well from my perspective, is a form in which all of the characters believe they are right, and someone is going to die. And when we watch characters who believe they are right in what they're doing clashing, and yet we know that the result of that clashing is going to be in some way a human sacrifice, someone is going to have to die or suffer, I think it begs the question, Does violence need to occur for political progress to occur, for ideologies to be advanced? Or can we avert the violence by coming together and hearing each other and holding the rage in a room and creating a space for it to be heard and acknowledged and validated? And then not catharsis, that's not the goal. For us, it's not, you know, a ritualized moment of everyone coming together and hugging each other. It's really just being present in a room with other people who don't agree with you but believe they are right, and not descending into violent rhetoric or physical violence. And so the goal of our production, when we tour it, is to create that space over and over and over again wherever we go. Tonight we'll be creating it again at 8:30, and I hope those of you who enjoyed the experience will come back. It's always different. I hope you'll recommend it to others, family, loved ones, friends, community members, to come back and see us perform again on this stage at 8:30. So what happens when everyone is right and someone's going to die? What happens when we're locked into intractable conflicts in which we know we're participating as characters playing roles, and we have no distance because of our rage and our emotions from the roles that we're playing, and aren't able to acknowledge our fundamental humanity? And how do we step back from those roles, acknowledge the rhetorical positions we're taking, and interrogate them as human beings who all are from the same family? Those are the questions I want to leave you with. Those are the questions at the center of our project. And I hope you'll come back for another performance where we can participate with you, with our choir, in open dialogue. But I very much look forward to hearing what comes from your dialogue this afternoon. Thanks again for having us. It's been a real pleasure. I hope you have a really great morning and afternoon. Take care.
Thank you, Bryan, and thank you for those questions, which exactly are what we want to talk about today. I'd now like to introduce our first panel, which is called Point Counterpoint, but I want to bring to your attention the app that I referred to earlier. If you go to www.snf.org/conference, you'll see there that there's a little icon, and it's called Online Graffiti. Through that, you can pose questions in real time to our panelists. The questions will appear on the screen, and you'll be able to engage with them, and they may stop and take your questions midstream, or we may get back to them later when we break into our 5 groups. I'd like to introduce now our panelists for, as I said, point, counterpoint, immigration, border security, identity, and nationalism. Robin Niblett of Chatham House, and Kees Rietveld, an advisor on fragile states policies.